My name's Jeff, I'm 53 years old, married with 2 teenage daughters. And last May, I bought 20 acres of wooded property, which you're seeing behind me here, with the idea that we would build a log home and barn out of the available resources on the property. So that's all a great plan, and everybody seems to think that's kind of a interesting thing to do, but I didn't realize at the outset of this undertaking how much I was going to learn. And what I tell my wife is basically every time I come out here, I learn something about myself and about how to get the job that I'm trying to accomplish done the best way possible. Sometimes it works out, but most of the time, what I've learned is that you've got to have a primary, an alternate, a contingency, and an emergency plan, because rarely does something go according to your first idea, as they say. What I've found is that rain really puts a damper on your timeline. And, you know, of course, you folks that are in the construction industry or the excavation industry will go, yeah, no kidding, dummy. But, you know, being a city boy, growing up primarily where everything has had civil engineering expertise applied to it in terms of road and drainage and water systems, you don't appreciate how much water is an adversary. So anyway, the whole point of this is to kind of give you a little background on what I'm doing, what I'm trying to accomplish. The original idea is that we would start this process and in 2.5 years have everything complete. And that would coincide with our oldest daughter, who is now 15, graduating high school, and then we would sell our house in the city and move down here full time. And there's been talk of goats and chickens and sheep, but first things first. And what you might not have in common with me, if you're watching this video and you're interested in doing something like this, getting out of the city and kind of, we're not going to be self-sufficient, but we are definitely going to have some sufficiency built in, and I'll go into that more in later videos. But the biggest challenge that I spent most of this summer on, which you may or may not have, is that the previous owners of this property logged it out. Anyway, they hired this logging company to come in and basically take out 32 trees, mostly white oak, some cherry, and a little walnut. But here's an example of the type, you know, just for scale. This gives you an idea how big this tree used to be. But you can see there in the background, you know, so I've been clearing all of the tree tops that were left behind by the logging crew. And here's a view down. This was the biggest challenge. I don't know, you can't really see it. The camera doesn't translate the drop here very well, but I got about a 50-foot ravine there, and there were just trees interlaced in there that had to be taken out before I could really work on the rest of the project, which is to set up my portable sawmill, which is in this army tent here, 16 by 32 army tent, and start milling trees into the logs that are going to be set for the cabin. Anyway, so that's what's going on. One thing I wanted to mention is, and I'll go into more detail on the next video, but right now, as you can see, things are pretty wet. It's December, it's the week before Christmas, and it's been raining here. And I've been spending a lot of time building drainage ditches to carry out water from where my access road comes in from the outside of the property, which is a 3/4 of a mile road. So that's a challenge in and of itself. Some people say I'm out of my mind for tackling a job like that by myself, but I've got a skid steer in there. It's a 326D, 10-year-old, and I've got several implements for it. I've got a 6-foot bucket here. And then I've also got a stump bucket as well that has a grapple on it that has helped me move all of this timber around and get it kind of located and organized, if you will. The skid steer has been an incredible asset, and I would encourage you, if you're taking something like this on, to consider buying one. We got ours for about $19,000. It was used, and I bought it from a fella who was a hobby farmer before. Anyway, it's great. We can talk more about that in the future, but I just kind of wanted to give you a kind of a baseline of where I am. Been doing this for about 8 months now, and I'll go into more specifics of some of those experiences, dealing with neighbors and property lines and easements, some considerations about getting your utilities back to your property after you build it, both electrical and water, and also sewage considerations with septic systems. Also, you got to consider getting propane back here as well. So anyway, there's a lot to consider if you're thinking about doing something like this. I would highly recommend it. It's not easy. There's nothing about this that's easy. It's one of the most challenging things I've ever done, and I've run 2 Ironman triathlons. I joined the Army National Guard Airborne Unit when I was 39 and went to basic training in Fort Benning at 39, just before I turned 40. I've had my hands around some challenges, but this is the king. But it's a rewarding endeavor, so I would encourage you, if this is something that you're considering, think it through, talk it over with your partner. It's a financial challenge as well, and that's something else we can go into in later videos. You know, we're looking to build a home here that we can retire in and live out the rest of our lives, and you know, that means we want to have our creature comforts and electrical and power and water and you know, Wi-Fi and everything else, because my wife works at home. Anyway, I've gone on a little long here, but I'll put this up and we'll see if this is something, if you're interested. I'll continue to put these out. Give me ideas about the things that you're interested in that I haven't covered, that I am considering sharing with you in the future, and we'll go from there.